Hey, what's going on? Thank you so much for watching. It would mean the world to us if you could just scroll down, like, hit the subscribe button for the Snaps YouTube channel. It goes a long way towards helping us out. Now, let's dive into some college football. Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome into a special edition of Snaps. I mean, if you're watching on YouTube, you already know. If you're listening on pod, though, sitting here in the middle of the screen between myself and Aaron Murray is the man himself, Dan Lanning, head coach of the Oregon Ducks, a man who has found himself constantly in the headlines here as of late for all good reasons, man, making waves. Coach Lanning, we've talked about you a ton on this show. Thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be on.
Okay, so ABC, always be Cruton, right? It seems like maybe nobody embodies that better than you do. And the zenith of this, one of the most big dick moves I've ever seen in my entire life. Rumors are swirling, yada, yada, yada. And what do? Y'all drop a tape saying, look, I ain't going nowhere. What went into that? How did that come about? Because I've never quite seen anything like that. Was that last second? Was it planned? How did that video come about?
Yeah, it was honestly, we're in a battle for a defensive tackle. And the mom is on the phone and, she's saying to me, slightly before, like, hey, I just had the same conversation with another coach who told me he's not leaving. And now I see your name with this other job. I'm like, I promise you I'm not going anywhere. And I'm like, what would give you some reassurance? She goes, well, you haven't made a statement. You haven't done anything. I said, look, here, I'll send you this video. We're going to release this tomorrow morning so we can get your son signed up. So that always be recruiting. That's the that's the habit of that. You get a lot of, messages from your players on your team too about what's going on. And
yeah,
you sit in the living room and tell them what your plans are. But sometimes I guess you have to make a statement. So hopefully that's the last one I ever have to make.
Yeah. So we always talk about always be recruiting, coach, but I want to propose this. I take your phone away. You only got a phone. You can't talk to your players, coaches, recruits for a month. You go off the grid. What is Coach Dan Land doing off the grid for a month?
That sounds amazing. completely unrealistic. I'll be spending time with my family. Just really that, enjoying that. I like to play golf. I'm not any good at it, but I just enjoy the camaraderie and the scenery, out there on the course if I get the opportunity. But more than anything, kicking it with my kids. My youngest son's playing basketball right now, and last weekend's the first game that I got to watch 3/4 of it. So
wow.
I would love to be able to go watch him go, compete and spend some time with the crew.
Well, and Coach, that's what's kind of crazy about this, right? Is that outside looking in, you seem like one of the more human coaches, right? Like, I'm 35, we're about the same age, right? Like that quote that you were like, look, man, I want my kid to finish high school. I'm going to watch for us to do that. We got to win games. I got to win games here in Oregon. That's incredibly, I guess, normal compared to a lot of coaches where it's always like, what's the BBD? What's next? What's a bigger step I can get to? So what is it about Oregon where you're kind of you seem to be planning some Redwood-esque roots, if you will?
Yeah, we just love this place. I'd never been in Oregon. When I got off the plane, here's my first time ever being here. So as the head coach, get off, and I expected great facilities. I expected some awesome resources, but it's not just the facilities at the football office. It's going over to campus and seeing the Jakewell where we get to do academics. It's the people. Everybody says the people, and it's a term that's overused in college football. But we genuinely have great people that are hungry to be here, best job they've ever had. So that makes this place, and then being able to be in a spot where you can have success. For me, winning is number one, and I'm in a place where we can win. And you want to have a happy life, win games, right? So
yeah,
that's kind of where it starts. And I'm in a place where I feel like we can win games. And, like I said, we have great support. So if I need something, I feel like they make it happen.
So you need a veteran quarterback to win games. And you go from probably going to be the quarterback with the most career starts in Bo Nix to Dillon Gabriel, who may surpass that if he does stay healthy this year and obviously wins out the battle if you guys do have one in spring and fall. Talk about the importance of that position in a veteran guy, a guy that's played a lot of football, and maybe was that something that you sought for when Bo, obviously moved on after his last season there at Oregon?
Yeah, I think we're always looking for ways to enhance your roster. We want to build it from the ground up. We start with high school recruiting, and we sign over 25 high school guys this year, but I think you use the portal to be able to enhance your roster and improve it. And when you find a guy the character of Dillon and Dante, a guy that we had recruited before, you get excited when you get to add guys to your roster like that create competition. The best in everybody comes out when you have to go out there and compete. So having some guys with great experience, with the skill set and the talent, that's not just the quarterback, that's every position.
Well, and you managing it, that was like one of the most shrewd, impressive feats of the offseason. And it speaks something that I've wondered about a lot with you, Coach, and that is your kind of relative youth, maybe to some of your peers. I mean, I mentioned it, 37 years old. Right now, college football is evolving by the day, right? We have completely reforged the sport. It's more time intensive than ever. You have to be more adaptable than ever. Do you feel like you get any advantages from the fact that you're still kind of coming up in this thing as it's changing all around you compared to maybe some old heads that have, been doing it for 30, 40 years?
Yeah. I mean, when I first became the head coach here, it's one of the first things I said. I don't know if it's easier to become a head coach now or it's, easier to have been a head coach for 15 years and everything's changing. So one of the things that I think makes us successful around here is I'm not afraid to change, and I certainly don't have all the answers. So as long as you know that you're probably not going to have the answers in college football the way it's going right now, and you surround yourself with good people and you're willing to adapt, you got a chance. But if you're not willing to adapt right now, you've got zero chance. So I know that.
What needs to change? Like if you were given a little bit even more control or more say, or see it with the commissioners, if you had to sit down with those guys, like what is something that you during your time now as a head coach and experiencing that role would make the game better or easier? Because I always say for like coaches, when I go to like the SEC media days, like what can we do to make y'all's life better? Because you guys are the face of the programs. Like what needs to change with all the changing landscape and the craziness going on in our game?
Yeah, I don't know that I have a great answer. I think before we change another rule, we need to make sure we think about the ramifications of each rule, because it feels like that's maybe a little bit of what hasn't been done. Like right now, the portal window exists twice in the same season. So right now we're going to the spring and we feel like we know who's going to be on our roster, but post spring, it could be completely different again. So having two windows is a little bit different. You don't have free agency twice in the same year in the NFL, but we have it right now in college football. But I don't have all the answers, and I'm too busy doing my job to worry about what those look like. I just think some conversations between coaches and the people who do make those rules would certainly make sense.
Coach, one of the most impressive parts about Oregon last year is the toughness that you seem to have instilled there. When you think about what Oregon's been kind of in our era, I would say, kind of your 20-aughts on, it's been flashy. It's been a lot of finesse, a lot of speed, but when it came down to, the big dogs in the trenches, they couldn't always hang. And it feels like that not only that start to change last year, but it feels like that's been a real point of emphasis from you. What's that process like? How do you go about changing kind of a brand identity and creating toughness like that?
Well, you have a standard. You have a standard of performance. I think our coaches do a phenomenal job of owning that standard, what it looks like. To play tough, you got to practice tough. You can't show up on game day and do it and not do it during the week in practice. And I always say, if you don't bite as a puppy, you're not going to bite as a dog. So you got to go find guys that are physical in high school. You got to go find guys that are physical, through recruiting. They want that embrace that. Going into this bowl prep, there were some days that I was going to go out and our guys were going to wear spiders because it's been a long season. And our guys are like, no, coach, we need pads. So when your players embrace that,
yeah, what?
I think that speaks volumes to what they think about what it takes to win. And, it's like you said, it's not going to be jerseys and cool cleats that get it done. That's awesome that you can look good, but you better play good.